Hello, welcome to Quackalope, thank you for being here. Today we're bringing you a preview of RoboMon, which I would argue is the first iteration of the Pokémon genre of video game into a tabletop setting. Now, there's a few things here that'll be familiar, and we'll go through all of those different elements and mechanics as we talk through what this game is and how it plays. But I want to start the conversation off by saying, as someone who grew up playing Pokémon, I mean, an avid Bulbasaur fan, for all of you Bulbasaur bays out there, I was really skeptical of this game. I was skeptical of its adjacency to a genre and a platform that I love. I was skeptical of what it was trying to do in terms of iterating upon the Pokemon system or bringing that Pokemon video game feeling, the classic Game Boy Color style movement and mechanics and interacting with the world, the capture the creatures and then fight them in different battles so you can take down your opponents. I was skeptical of it all. I didn't know if this would be an absolute hit or if this would be a game that fell short of the mark, if it was trying, if it felt like a visage of or an imitation of the thing that I grew up loving, the nostalgia that I have, or if it would play right into it. And just diving into RoboMon so far, you can tell that Gabe, the designer and creator and publisher of this, and the team that is working with him to bring this all together, are fans of the same platform that I grew up with. They have the same nostalgia and the same love for the genre, and honestly, I will say this is really, really well done. And it's well done within the context of the Pokemon video game and as someone who is a fan of the Pokemon world. I would love to see this actually implemented and used in an actual Pokemon game one day. I mean, it would probably do millions. However, because that's an IP that you of course can't get your hands around, this is where we are, and RoboMon has the same fun, nostalgia, adorable artwork, interesting little battles, and immensive or kind of expansive world for you to explore. So if you're here, if you're watching this and you were where I was, please keep that in mind. Now, of course, this is a sponsored preview video, so I am going to be diving in and showing you the different elements and mechanics that are here in this game, but I'm probably going to also be doing a late campaign or a late preview gameplay just to show this off, which isn't sponsored, it's just because I want to give you more information and I want to celebrate and share this journey with you. Alright, RoboMon. What's happening here? So RoboMon is, of course, like we've already started to establish, a implementation of the Pokemon genre of games. The name doesn't hide it, the style and aesthetic doesn't hide it, the way that you're capturing creatures and throwing them against each other doesn't hide it at all. It's got this merging of elements here, and the core system, the core thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be going out into the world with whoever your character, whoever your main player is, which there's a ton of diverse people to choose. You're going to be adding them to your sheet, you're going to be upping your stats, your personal abilities, how fast and dexterous you are, kind of like a dungeon crawl in some ways, and then you're going to be going on an adventure. The game starts over here with you going to Gramps Mechanics. Sound familiar at all? Gramps Mechanics is sort of like your professor. He's going to be introducing you to your first creature, teaching you your initial battle, and then setting you out into Copper Ridge, which is the starting world. But as you play through, just this preview that I have here, you're going to be going through the Old Road, Camp Cobalt, you're going to be going through the Cobalt Woods, going to be going through the Slurry Steppes. There's so many of these regions to explore, and it goes through that same genre that I've been talking through. It's dungeon crawl adjacent. It's tableau building-ish, because you are building a roster of the creatures that you want to attack and defend and fight with. It's definitely a story-driven, choose-your-own-adventure style game, but it's also a bit more than that. It's a digital implementation on a tabletop setting. So again, you're going to be taking and drafting your character, adding a sticker to your board here, getting your stats, and of course, starting off with your person. I chose Willowhair in our first gameplay, but there's going to be a variety of different options, and I'm trying not to spoil too much here in this video, because I don't know how many creatures or characters you actually want to see. This entire stack of punchable tokens here first off, it's really cool because these are double-sided. So I'm actually able to take this, remain secret, but punch them out to take a look at what's here. For instance, here's Sparky, and Willow Hair, I think, is number 7, which is right here. That means you still have a completely private punchboard system that allows you to discover, capture, and collect the various different types of RoboMon that are around this environment. So the game starts off here. You talk with your Gramps, you talk with, you fight his creature, and then you come over here to Copper Ridge, and you begin exploring the first stage of the game. And one of the things that RoboMon does really well is it introduces you to the gameplay one stage or one step at a time. I have a rules reference here, but this rules reference is not actually how you start learning the game. You will read pages at a time, like when I first had my initial battle against Sparky, I sat down and read 2 or 3 pages step by step following through the battle and the combat rules. But this is a game all about discovery. Copper Ridge here really goes through and allows you to explore each one of these elements, from a comic system newsreel that might pop up here. Let's see if I can find that page. So first off, there's comics all through this, which are lovely, but here's the news, updating you on what's happening in the world. Guess how you discover that? Well, you go here to this location and you watch the Robo Report. You could go to the Bolt Market, where you might get a little additional quest. You could pop here to these different regions, rolling dice to see what types of resources you find scattered throughout the wilderness, and you could use your search index here. I forget the actual term for it. Let's see if it says it. The RM Tracker. And this is how you're going to start discovering and fighting and capturing brand new RoboMon. This is sort of like your Pokedex, right? So down here, you're actually able to search in every single region for unique creatures, and you have to use some of your resources to modulate or control where you actually land on an icon and what creature you're able to find, some of which will be significantly more difficult than others. And that's how the game progresses. There's still a world of stuff that I have not explored, even here in this prototype that I have, and the final game is supposed to be like 30 to 50 total hours, depending on how you progress through it and how you explore it, with lots of replayability, because you're able to go down different pathways and choose different RoboMon to join with you on your quest. That's the core heart and soul. That's the concept. Other unique things that they've done here is the way that the storybook actually integrates with this world book. Every world is going to have its own little icon and then its own little page number up here in the top corner. And depending on what location you want to go to, like 2610, I then sequence that over here to my location. So 2601 will bring me to whatever the interaction is down here with, it looks like, a grandfatherly type creature. And each one of these is full to the brim of encounters, of stories, of combats, of different arenas, of locations and buildings that you can enter, and of story and flavor text and the journey that you're actually taking on your way. I really like how this pairs together in a way that drives you into the book and gives you lots of different variability and options. Over here we have our 4 decks of cards. We have our RoboMon deck, which, if you don't want secrets, close your eyes for just a second. But this is full to the brim with all of the different types of creatures you'll be able to find, capture, and work with throughout your journeys. It is absolutely lovely, and honestly, I think they've done a really excellent job of doing their own style of the classic Pokemon creatures. I could see them selling little collectible card game packs alongside of this and really making a thing out of it. Here we have our Versus. Our Versus is going to be the combat system, which I'll talk about in just a bit, that actually deals with and pairs with every single RoboMon that you're finding, because you're going to either be taking them down, fighting them against other boss battles to gain badges or gain credits, patches, to accomplish your mission, and slowly become the best RoboMon trainer in the journey. They also have these journal cards, and these journal cards are really cool as well. They talk a little bit about the flavor text. They have a really nice, adorable sketch of the RoboMon, and it's kind of like you collecting information in your Pokedex. Like, for instance, here, Treehee processes dead plant life to create fertilizer. Stage 67, nature type. I really like these. I like the little bit of story that they give to each one of these RoboMon, because it's not like these creatures exist on their own. Instead, this is a world where, as far as I can tell, it seems like the RoboMon have been created to make the world better. processing and doing good services around this planet or around this island in order to aid human civilization and human life. That being said, it does seem like things have gone a little haywire, and maybe they just exist on their own. We already have reports of a rat type, a ratazon, that is self-replicating, which seems to be potentially a problem that might happen if you have an entire nation or an entire island filled to the brim with very helpful but potentially dangerous robots. Again, it's really cool. We also have our pack of cards here. These are going to be our journey cards or our adventure cards. These cards sequence with missions that you're trying to accomplish, locations that you're going to, little extra notes and items that help you on your pathway, from a voucher here that we got from watching a news segment over to our type, which is going to indicate that like fire type is strong against leaf type is strong against water, rock, and electric, and so on and so forth. There's a lot here that's familiar to Pokemon fans. There's a lot here to love outside of what's familiar to Pokemon fans. And I think it really strikes an interesting balance. I'd say the biggest marketplace for this is absolutely going to be the audience that's like me, that grew up playing Red and Yellow and making hard decisions around the adventure and the story we wanted to tell with our favorite little, creatures, our favorite little Pokemon. However, there is a immersive and expansive world of choose-your-own-adventure bliss here that I think also has a compelling attractiveness or a compelling story to be told, even to people that aren't as familiar with the Pokemon genre. For me, there's also a lot of fun clips and quips that allow me to laugh at some of the things that are too close to Pokemon. Like, for instance, when you first start your journey, it makes mention to what type of parents would allow a 10-year-old to go exploring on their own. In this game, you're 17 before you go out on your RoboMon journey. I enjoy that. I enjoy those little bits that are making fun of something that I also am remembering while I play this. It's nice to have that echo, the jokes that we kind of make ourselves if you grew up in this genre. So let's talk about one or two more specifics. First off is the mission or the objective of the game. The objective of the game is going to be not only set collection, getting all of the different RoboMon that are around the world, it's also going to be taking down certain bosses and boss battles. So every location that you go to is going to be progressing you towards a final gym or a final showdown or a final person that you have to go ahead and beat. So you're going to have these patches that you're trying to collect: water, nature, electric, fire, earth, air, and ice. And you'll of course have to gather, train, and increase your own stats and your RoboMon stats in order to take down those badges and gain those patches. You are absolutely going to be searching for various different types of RoboMon, adding them to your Pokedex or your Robodex, whatever it is, and building out your personal journal and notes on each one. On top of that, you're going to be increasing your certificates. There's a certain number of things that you need to accomplish in every location before you can move on from one location to the next. So you'll be taking notes of how many of those you've completed and also trying to figure out the puzzles or the clues that are in each one of these sequences for you to continue progressing the game forward. Finally, it's going to be about battling. It's going to be a choose-your-own-adventure story that results in showdowns, whether that's wild showdowns with the creatures that you find along the way where you're trying to capture them, or their boss and gym battles. So, if you're doing a wild showdown, you're going to be rolling 2 dice to try to get them adjacent or lined up with this little Robodex system here. Like, this is a 4 and a 4. So 4, and there's no 4 option here, but I could spend energy in order to manipulate this die, so I could cycle it down and make it a 4 and a 1, meaning I would be versus a 004, which means I'd be drawing one from the deck here, and I can go ahead and do that to show you who I might be fighting. So if I grab 004, I am now going up against a Pandel, who's a fire type, which is not great against my Willowhair, who's a plant type. I will then be rolling dice and heading back and forth against each one of them, adding defense to my own stats, depending if I want to be in a movement and defense position or if I want to be attacking as aggressively as possible. Each one of your creatures has their own general stats down at the bottom in a way that I think you could actually use the Pokemon card game to implement or iterate upon this system just slightly. I think there's a way that you could hybrid this into an existing card market that already exists, but We have our stats down here at the bottom, which are doing a certain amount of damage. You'll be rolling your dice, and then you'll be using your dice accordingly, getting rid of things like movement, because here in this case it doesn't really matter, increasing the time mark because they might escape before you've actually been able to capture them, using your defense, and then using your wild icons, your general attack icons, or the stars, which are going to be your special attack icon, and deciding what type of attack you want to make. Each one of these attacks will cost a resource, which is going to be your little spark plugs here, and if you run out of energy, you'll, well, lose the game as well. Not lose the game. Your character will be knocked out, and you won't be able to actually capture Panda. Now, when you go to capture, you'll be using this system here, which requires you to roll a d4 and try to land it here in one of these central zones. You need to roll at, I believe it's at or lower than what the creature is that you're trying to capture, their current stat or their current health. Once you're able to reprogram them, they get added to your slot and you can bring them out on future battles. You're also going to be healing up and using the resources that you find along the way to modulate your energy, allow you to do more and more search results, hunting for more RoboMon around the area, and of course, spending those reboot or reprogrammed tokens in order to go ahead and capture wild RoboMon. They get added to your roster, and you're able to have 6 that are active with 2 battling in certain scenarios. The battle system actually gets really unique. Let me flip to just a map here. The battle system is going to be set up on an actual location where you have different types of terrain, different environments that you're battling in, a grid system, so it's a bit of a skirmish showdown, and you'll be running with 2 of your RoboMon who get placed out here onto these locations against 2 of your opponents and sometimes more. They'll be moving down this track, fighting back and forth, rolling dice. Adjacency and positioning will matter a little bit more when it comes to this head-to-head, which means your movement dice now have even more meaningful decisions. And I do know they are still refining some elements of this battle system to give you a little bit more agency over the dice that you have and to allow you to really make this experience as crunchy as possible. I think it's really neat how the capture system is a simplified version of the heavier boss battles. And the heavier boss battles do feel like they change up the game in an important way. Some of your stats or abilities allow you to do things like dig and move into certain directions, get into an adjacent position and take a stronger attack, or get advantage on different creatures depending on where you are and what type you are that's going to be fighting them. It feels like a Pokemon gym battle in the best way possible, in a way that the Pokemon gym didn't even fully do because it was all ambient or environmental. I mean, until of course you get down to like one of the newer iterations of the Pokemon genre, the classic like Game Boy Color style Pokemon gym battles didn't even feel as good as this. They were more just punch each other in the face, and hopefully your imagination is spinning up enough to let you see the picture. So that's what this game is. RoboMon is a adventure in a storybook. It's a choose-your-own adventure narrative puzzle. It's a dungeon crawl in some ways because you're exploring new locations and going from region to region. It's absolutely a set collection game in the same way that like Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley is, where you're trying to get every single RoboMon that exists out here. You might spend a lot of time just hunting and exploring the world and looking for those hidden creatures or those hidden tokens that you haven't had a chance to punch yet. It's got a lot of mystery and a lot of story to explore. It's also got some skirmish elements, from a simplified boss battle, or from a simplified combat battle with the wild creatures that you might find, all the way up to a full-on boss battle with movement, gridded locations, and a skirmish system at its heart. It is really, really cool. So what are some of the reasons why you might not be interested in this? Because I think I've spent enough time hyping it up and talking about what I've been excited to discover along the way. For those of you that have gotten to this point, it of course is still playing on that Pokemon trope or that Pokemon genre, and I think it does it really well. But if it still bothers you that it's just not Pokemon, it may not stop bothering you. For me, it did, but that doesn't mean it will for you. Along with that, this is a heavily narrative-based game. You will be reading a lot of text and going through a lot of elements here in the book. And so if you're not sure that you enjoy reading, or you're one of those that in the video game always skip through the text as fast as possible, you'll be missing some really special story arcs, and not only that, but some important cues here in RoboMon. You need to read the text. And so if you scroll as fast as possible to get from one battle to the next, I'm not saying you can't do that here, but I think you'll be missing a lot, potentially. And outside of that, it is a game on the table. I mean, it's good, but it does still require you to do a little bit of upkeep and a little bit of management. I know for Shira, there was a little bit too fiddly elements here on the game board. From tracking the stats that you have with each one of your creatures, the energy that each one has, the defense icons, and the type of resources you're using for your battles, healing them up between session, or trying to like keep them alive, or repairing them from one session to the next, or going into a battle, let's say with a wounded creature, meaning that you have to make a decision beforehand whether or not you're going to like fully restore them. There's a lot of little decisions to be made here, and not all of them are as streamlined as you might want. Being said, it is still a prototype, it is still in development, and all I have in front of me here is the idea or the promise of what this game is going to be. With anywhere from 30 to 50 hours worth of gameplay in the final copy, I am insanely excited to continue diving into this and continue checking it out. I will have some more coverage here on the channel before the end of the campaign. I think there's about 9 days left, so you should swing over there and take a closer look. I'm also planning on doing a video that just talks about how it does Pokemon on the table. I haven't figured out what that video exactly looks like yet, but it is something that I'm thinking through. All right, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thanks for letting me show this off to you. Whatever the case, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Get out and play some games. We'll see you next time.